Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. We're taking a look here, of course, at Bitcoin, seeing what's going on. We do have an interesting little pattern here. They're speculating we're getting some liquidation levels just above this current price point. There's also a fair value gap as as high as 60,800. So just kind of shooting from the hip here, we may see a sweep of that upper liquidation here, just to go ahead and get the price action to pull back shortly after. So if you're in a short, I could just consider adjusting your stop loss. Really just depends on obviously your position, but generally speaking at this point here, we're going to look at some liquidation data just to confirm, okay? And just to clarify too, if you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. I love to teach people to trade. I hope you can learn something today. Let's quickly look here at the price point here for the liquidation above 60 or above 59,800. We have 60,000 upwards of 60,600. That's exactly it. There's that fair value gap there of liquidation just above the price action. A lot of people are shorting that level. So keep in mind, a lot of either newer traders or just in general, just traders, they'll put a stop loss or a liquidation level right at that specific range. And it's important if you are trading like this here, for example, not to have a stop loss at 60,000. Put it up just a little bit above, or perhaps much higher above with low leverage, to ensure that you're not going to be putting yourself in a position to get liquidated if the price wakes up. Okay, just keep in mind that it's a very common occurrence, and with there being a larger accumulation of liquidation just above 60,000, that leads me to believe that we might see the price jump up and then pull back from there. Now, it may not be a significant pullback, it might just continue, but this is a weekend, folks. You got to recognize weekends are always a little weird. So me personally, I don't love trading into weekends or holding positions into weekends. We do have a short open right now as well. And my question here, obviously, let's take a look here. Is it worth closing, or do we want to just kind of keep it open? It really just depends on, again, what your position size is. Me personally, I like to use low leverage and low position, so that way in situations like this, I don't feel too stressed. Okay, and then you should probably maybe consider adopting a similar philosophy, because I tell you what, the stress in trading can be crazy if you are if you're not prepared for it, or just in general if you consistently put yourself in risky situations. All right, so let's take a look here. We can see we got some moving averages working their way down. 20-day SMA hanging out right there at about 60,000. There's a strong chance that area is either going to get tested soon or will work as a resistance. We've already seen the 20-day SMA work as a resistance so far. We're honoring this descending trend line here so far, so I think at this point we're in a situation where until we break above that, we have no consideration to take a long, right? This is just kind of the general consensus. Also keep in mind, if we do end up breaking above that this weekend, it could very well be a false positive. You want to be maybe careful taking a long in the weekend trading, just because the volume is so low. I mean, look at today, for example. You see how big this candle is versus how small the volume bar is. That's not a good sign. That generally implies that this is, the whales are just waiting to swipe. Essentially, they're waiting to strike, and it's not great. Either way you look at it, there is some positivity here. We are starting to swing up on the MACD here. We're not fully converged, but we are converging. We can also see here as well, we're retesting 50 on the RSI. We break through that, it might be a cause for shifting gears to essentially consider long positions. Just again, make sure you remember, a lot of market movers are going to try to trap a lot of late longs, and sometimes they'll just destroy the price action shortly after it goes up. Okay, so there's a good chance that could happen, but again, things are shaping a little bit more towards a potential breakout once we close above this trend line. I would like to see a solid closure above this more local high. If you can see this, there's been multiple attempts at this level here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attempts to break 61,700. So we close above 61.7. I think it's good to go, green light to consider a long position, because we'd have a lot of confirming factors at that point. Right now, we're like testing the confirming factors, if that makes sense. So if we look at our local point of control, we can see we're right at that level. Again, that point of control is at 59,600, almost exactly right where the price action's at. So depending on how we close today will determine a lot. But it also, again, being a weekend, I wouldn't say it's super substantial because the volume is so low. So once more, just be careful trading weekends, folks. Again, it's not really the best metric for understanding what's going to happen next. We do take a look here. We got some momentum going into this, and while this isn't exactly a cup and handle pattern, it's shaping out to work itself into one. So a lot of times when those break out, they'll break out to the upside, of course, come back and retest this more local high, and then continue higher. Okay. This would align fairly well with a lot of the moving averages if we break above that. So again, time will tell, but There's a fair value gap as high as about 60,600. Coincidentally, that's right there where this upper level is for this liquidation too. So I think 60.6 may be a cause for consideration for an area of potential, considering maybe potentially shorting there, but also securing profits if you're in a long at that level to ensure that if price pulls back, you walk away in the green. Okay. All in all, the 4-hour time frame is transitioning nicely. Again, we're testing majority moving averages right now. We are not quite there yet, but I would say we get a solid closure at 60,000 roughly today, then I think we're going to be looking pretty good to see a continuation through the remainder of this weekend. Monday will be a different story altogether, or Sunday night when the Asian markets open. Keep in mind, they're very notorious about securing profits, especially since we had a profitable Friday and Saturday so far. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of reasons for the price to pull back, but hey, a lot of reasons why the price may continue further up too, just in the overall sense. We take a look here, of course, at Ichimoku Cloud. Well, it's going to confirm that we have some green lights here to leave your long position open if you have one. If the conversion line's above the baseline, lagging span is getting closer to the price action. So again, if the price doesn't break out soon, we can presume it'll continue lower. Or, of course, we break through this level here, we could experience a bullish backtest of that horizontal trend line and essentially continue higher. So I would say that would be an invalidation of a short position if we close somewhere above, once again, 60,000 today, or if you see the price jump above and come back down to kind of hang out in this area. That would be a likely shift in momentum. Okay, that's generally what you want to look for, is when the price action is retested after it's broken initially. Other than that, not too much else to note. I mean, we can see the Ichimoku Cloud is currently below the price action. So overall, at this point here, it is looking like Bitcoin wants to try to break out. So if you're in a short position right now, perhaps with our community, feel free to close that if you want. It's really not that far in the red. I think 58.9 is the average entry. But again, it's too early to tell, honestly, and with low volume, it creates very unique circumstances. So perhaps out of an abundance of caution, I may just consider closing the trade altogether, just because I don't like holding these kind of trades into the weekend, especially when Bitcoin is giving us some false positives here. Okay, again, very much too early to tell, but that's all in all what we're looking at here. Hopefully this made some sense and clarified some things. I know it's not always definitive, and it can't always be a yes or no. Trading is full of gray areas, and that's really where we reside as traders too, right? For the most part, 95% of trading is to wait for confirmation. We don't have confirmation yet on the 4-hour or the hourly. And neither do we have actually on the daily either. I mean, most time frames are giving us conflicting information. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means you kind of just sit on your hands and you wait it out. But I can tell you the overall sentiment here is that the trend short term is moving up right now, and you want to kind of respect that if you're going to be trading in either direction. And right now it does appear that the majority of the market is on the incline here and increasing. In fact, let's quickly note here, this is CME futures. We close at about 59.4. So if the price does end up going up, we can expect it to come back down to fill that gap if there is one created. We'll look at that later, of course, but for now, that's kind of what we got here for you folks. Appreciate you watching. Thanks again so much for your time. We'll look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.